And I think that the depression came from having to shove myself into a box that did not fit and doing the thing that I thought I had to do in the way, at least my parents expected me to do it, and feeling so disconnected from myself in every way except for mothering. I have to say, I love being a mom, and my kids are everything to me.
This is Rebel Therapist, a podcast where you get to hear therapists and healers get vulnerable and real about our own growth and healing. I'm your host, Annie Schuessler, a healer and former therapist. My favorite kind of practitioner is the kind that wouldn't ask their client to do anything they wouldn't do themselves. Hi there. Before I jump in, I want to share a workshop that I'm running for people who are estranged or distant from their parent or caregiver and are needing support while they work to create a beautiful life and heal. This is a judgment-free zone where you're going to be with people who get it, and you're going to learn tools to really show up for yourself. Join me on Friday, August 1st. Go to anniezam.com to learn more and sign up. I can't wait to see you if this is what you need. Today's guest shares deeply and vulnerably about how she's done her own healing through really big stuff, including childhood sexual abuse, realizing she's a lesbian while she was married to a man, and the recent death of her father. You're going to hear about the beautiful process she guides people through, why she took a sabbatical recently, and why she's working with a shaman now. Meet Samantha Fox. As a sexuality coach, she works with women around the world to support them as they discover that they are not as straight as they may have thought. She's developed an experiential method called Unbox Your Sexuality that creates a monumental transformation. She's also an LMFT in New York. Welcome, Samantha. I'm so excited you're here.
I'm so excited to be here and so nice to see you.
You too. Okay, so I actually had a dream about you the other night. Obviously, knowing we were going to get to talk today, I had this dream that you were on the deck outside of my house and you're just sitting there in the sun. And I was like, oh my gosh, Samantha, you're here. And it made sense because it was a dream. And then you were like, yeah, I'm here. Yeah, we're going to talk. And I was like, that's amazing. And you were just like smiling, like, yep, we are going to talk. And then I was like, wait a second, Samantha, I can't tell if this is a dream or if this is really happening. And you were like, oh no, this is happening. So here we are.
Here we are. The dream comes true.
Yeah. So I was so excited to talk to you then, and I'm so excited to talk to you now. I want to start with, so you have this process, like this beautiful process for women realizing that perhaps they're not as straight as they thought. And I'm really curious, you've been through that yourself. And I'm wondering, like, the process you help people with, how is it different or in any way similar to the process you went through? Like, the tools you're giving people, did you have those tools? Do you wish you had those tools? Like, what's similar or different?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Gosh, I mean, I wish I had those tools when I went through this, when I realized mine was, I'm not as straight. It wasn't, I'm not as straight as I think I am, and maybe I'm bisexual or whatnot. It was like, oh my God, I'm a lesbian, after being straight. So it was 2002 when that happened. I had been in therapy already for a number of years at that point. And the therapy then was more like low-level depression, difficulty in the marriage, some marriage counseling, feeling kind of broken, I would say, sexually, because really just feeling zero willingness even to engage sexually with my male partner at the time, and anxiety, just a lot of anxiety. So that was kind of where I was when I suddenly realized that I was a lesbian. And it took me like 6 weeks of having met somebody. It took me 6 weeks of interacting with them to even understand that what I was feeling was not just obsession. And then it hit me over the head, and it was like, I'm gay,
Yeah.
and the therapist I had been seeing then, who I'd been seeing for about 9 years, I had brought it up a little bit that I had some of these feelings, but she was like, everybody has these feelings. This is normal.
Oh, girl. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And then when I came out, it was like, maybe this is just a phase that you're going through.
That's what she was kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whew. Wow. Okay. And so this is making me think about how, like, normalizing, like in therapy as a therapist, normalizing things. I mean, I could get very angry right now and say a whole bunch of things, but the most compassionate part of me toward your therapist is thinking, like, sometimes I feel like we are taught or encouraged to normalize things, and, like, that can be so great for someone to hear, like, "Oh my gosh, this is so normal." And I feel like you're speaking to, like, exactly a place where that is so minimizing and slowing someone's progress down when it's like, yeah, extremely normal, beyond normal, way better than normal, but also like, no, like there's something else going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it wasn't the process that I have leaned into with my coaching clients, which is really curiosity. So it wasn't like, hey, let's really dive into this. Let's really look at
Yeah.
this. Let's get really curious. Like, what are you feeling, and where do you feel it in your body? And,
Hmm.
how do you feel about feeling that? And, any of that. It was just, yeah, I felt minimized.
Hmm. Yeah. I love that curiosity as an approach instead of trying to answer for someone what's happening for them.
Yeah.
When you look back at, like, low-level depression that you were experiencing, what do you think about that now? Like, how do you understand the Samantha of that time having low-level depression?
I mean, it really makes so much sense because I was up until the point of meeting my husband to be, getting married, and then getting divorced. That little period of time I was with him, which is probably about 10 years, 11 years altogether with the
Mhm.
divorce. Prior to that, I was so free-spirited.
Mm.
And I also was somebody who didn't like boxes.
Mm.
Not around sexuality per se. I didn't really think about them around sexuality in this way, but I didn't like that there's a path that we're supposed to be on
Mhm.
to get checks and stamps of approval along the way, and I did everything I could to kind of not do what everybody else was doing, so I was very sort of like, drumming my own beat kind of a person
Mm. Mhm.
until I got married. And getting married it was sort of like I reached this point in my life where I felt like I had kind of done, like, I'd lived in Europe for a number of years, and
Mm.
I was 26. I came back and I was like, okay, I've done all the things. Now I
Mhm.
have to do what's expected of me.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think that the depression came from having to shove myself into a box
Mhm.
that did not fit and doing the thing that I thought I had to do in the way, at least my parents expected me to do it,
Mhm.
and feeling so disconnected from myself in every way except for mothering. I have to say, I love being a
Mm.
mom, and my
Mhm.
kids are everything to me. But the rest, it was like my depression was just a way to cope with not being able to fully be myself.
Yeah. Makes sense. It's like there was a real wisdom to that depression, or what we would call depression. Yeah. Okay, so then in developing your process for people who are going through their own curiosity, what kinds of tools have you found really helpful that would have been amazing for you? Outside, I mean, the curiosity already right there is a big one.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think that it took me so many years to get to a place where I really had this sort of like constellation, like all the dots were connected.
Mhm.
And so, what I feel like is very helpful for the people that I work with is being the guide to the dot connecting.
Mhm.
And so, the way that I've laid out, I mean, at least in the program that I work with women in, is the modules are laid out in a way that's very well thought out in advance in terms of it. They each build upon each other.
Mhm.
So once we lean into curiosity, which is literally where I start, it's the first module,
Mhm.
because, a lot of us learn that even being curious is a no-no,
Yeah.
right? Don't ask questions, don't butt into people's business.
Mhm.
So, I mean, being curious might be something that you feel like is dangerous or, really
Mm.
unfamiliar and have to learn that it's okay to be curious.
Mm. Mhm.
But even after that, I lean into, first of all, like emotional education. How
Mhm.
does our emotional system work? Let's understand our guilt, shame, and anxiety.
Mhm.
And the model that I use for that is based on Diana Fosha's AEDP therapy.
Mm. Amazing.
Yeah, and so I love the triangle that they have in that method where they show. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
So one of my best friends is really an AEDP person, so I've gotten to hear this a tiny bit.
Mhm.
Yeah, will you explain it to us?
Yeah, so there's another ADP therapist named Hillary Jacobs Hendel,
Mhm.
and she wrote a book called It's Not Always Depression, which
Ooh.
I recommend to everybody, and I recommend it to all my clients. I recommend it in my program. So she found this way, she created this triangle called the change triangle, and it's basically an upside down triangle. And at the two top corners are the things that they keep you away from the bottom corner of the triangle. So the
Mhm.
two top corners are on one side inhibitory emotions, which are shame, guilt, and anxiety.
Okay.
And on the other top corner are coping mechanisms, which could look like depression, eating disorders, addiction, workaholism, numbing out, scrolling, anything that is a coping mechanism is on the other corner. And those two corners kind of work with each other and they pull this energy back and forth between each other to keep you away from the bottom corner, which, if you imagine, like even just your torso, the bottom is your gut.
Yeah.
And in that space are your core emotions that you came wired with at birth.
Ooh.
And she calls out 7 of them.
Mm.
So they're joy, anger, fear, disgust, excitement, sexual excitement, and I am missing one. What big emotion am I missing? Sadness.
Wow.
Okay, so those are the 7 core emotions. So basically, this model says that these inhibitory emotions, like, I'm so guilty. I feel like I'm
Mhm.
such a terror. How could I have these feelings
Mm.
and want to break up my family because I want to be with a woman? Like, I'm a terrible person. I feel so ashamed of myself. I feel so guilty. I'm walking around with so much anxiety, right? All of that is so that you don't feel your core emotions.
Okay, so that you don't feel like maybe, excitement, joy, fear. Yeah, I could
Sadness.
imagine anger at that. Yeah, sadness, like grief.
Grief.
Yeah.
Grief. And honestly,
Oh.
grief, Annie, oh my God. I mean, I work with grief. I'm like a grief worker because that is the feeling that these women need to get comfortable with. And as a society, we're not comfortable with grief.
No.
Nobody likes these, oh my God, the person's a downer, like I don't want to be around someone who's so heavy and so down. There's no place to put your grief. There's no place to share your grief.
Yeah.
And this is a grief-filled process. So anyway, I do a lot of emotional education after the curiosity, which I think is really helpful because we really do get stuck in shame and guilt and anxiety. And we think that's what we're feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so then that other side of it, like, I've got this guilt, this shame, this like, how could I do this to my family? So selfish. And then on the other side, I've got like either depression or scrolling or, addiction or maybe even just like looping on certain thoughts, just numbing out, staying away from all of that.
Yep.
So like I could live my whole life kind of up in that space.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say a lot of us do.
Yeah. So this is amazing. So it's like the curiosity, and then that opens a can of worms that you then help people have, like, even if you're in a container, like your container with other people who are like so encouraging of your curiosity, so accepting, you still have that triangle inside yourself that's like, fuck no. Like, and so knowing how that might be working is so helpful.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. So that's the beginning. And then we lean into sexual narratives and really delving back to our childhood and what we learned and what messages came from our family of origin around gender roles and puberty and, all of the things that go way back in terms of just your family of origin and then your peers and then your society and then your community and then society and all of that, and really kind of look at the messages that you got and say, like, are these aligned with me today? Like, do I believe these or am I just living by these? So kind of really starting to wake people up to, wow, I'm just repeating the same narrative that I was told when I was 5 and now I'm 45. This really doesn't align with what I even think today.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can just imagine, like, if you had the you of now back at that time, how different that would have been.
Yes. So, and onwards it goes, module by module, just slowly peeling back these layers. And I didn't have that when I came out.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was happening. And I honestly thought that I was gay because I had early childhood sexual abuse. It took me years to realize that abuse kept me from my sexuality.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't know that even when I came out.
Yeah.
I thought it was that. I told my parents it was that. So, so many things that I had to live through for all of these years. And I would always say, like, why am I living through all of this? Why is this so hard? Like, why am I so challenged all the time? Because it really was challenging. Even though I got to be authentically myself, it really was still very challenging.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh, this is why, because now I'm gaining all of these tools and I can really help people go through this in a way where within 12 weeks, you can have like a rebirth of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for you, what did if this is too personal or not someplace you want to go, totally no problem, obviously. But like with your CSA, what did you find most helpful in doing some of that healing?
Yeah, so it's so interesting. I completely, essentially forgot that it happened until I was 19 and I was in a criminal psychology class in college, and the professor asked for a raise of hands for anybody who had been touched inappropriately by an adult when they were under the age of 16 or something like that. And my
Wow.
hand went up.
Wow.
And I was like looking at my hand like, whoa. And my friends looked at me and I was like, yeah, like that happened,
Yeah.
But I was like, but it had no effect on me. And I literally, from, the age of 17 or 18 until 25, I told my parents about it. I never told my parents about it. I told them at 25. And then I still hadn't really processed it. Like I hadn't done the work on it, even though I was in therapy, but the therapy was more like I feel broken, I feel kind of dirty, but this was with my husband. I just really, really just did not align with him. And I had all these terrible feelings, which I thought were related to the abuse.
Yeah.
It was only when I came out and I was first with a woman that I really got hit over the head with the effects of the abuse. So it wasn't until I was 32, and it was so painful. I ended up going into a 12-week group program that a hospital in New York City held for adult survivors of CSA. And that was the biggest thing that I did to process it. And it was difficult. I mean, it was very difficult. But it was a container, like well contained, and everybody shared, and we were all in it together. It was also a place where I realized, wow, it was only women. I think there were about 8 of us. Everybody else also had abuse from a male, but they were all straight. So that's where I started to be like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm really confused. Like, why are you all not gay too?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, like this abuse kept me from being gay because I was trying to overcome it for so many years before my husband even. I mean, just the way I was sexually in the world was really trying to overcome that abuse and be the one in control. I learned how to be the one in control. And so I just missed. I mean, the signs were all there. When I look back, they were all there that I was gay, but I had no clue. So that was, I read a lot of books. I did this 12-week program, and I think the healing for me was really in being with a woman and actually feeling no longer needing to feel that control, that sense of control, and just feeling safety. So there was a lot of healing in just even being able to be myself.
That makes sense. And I guess I'm hearing once you were able to be yourself and be in a safe enough life and fit for you, then that's when it became possible to start doing that healing. Because how are we going to heal when we're still in a situation where we're just not feeling safe or ourselves or
Yeah, disconnected, really like disembodied.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. As you've been listening to me talking to my wonderful guest, maybe you've been thinking that they might be the right next practitioner for you. You can find their contact information in the show notes, and I'll be saying it at the end of this episode out loud. I cannot promise you they have an opening, of course. They are really good, so don't get mad at me if they don't. I'm also a healer. I help people who are estranged from a parent or caregiver and other folks who are ready to do some really big healing. I use brain spotting and parts work to get at the root of emotional pain. If you have the feeling I might be the right next practitioner for you or for someone you love, go to anniezam.com and learn more about working with me. Okay, so in the last several years, you've been on such a healing journey. I mean, I guess you're just someone who's extremely committed to healing, and so anytime I talk to you, that's probably gonna be the case. Like, I think we have that in common. Like, seriously, you've been on a journey, and I know you mentioned you were working with a wonderful therapist for a long time, and then you ended that work and started working with someone else. Can you share that a little bit with us?
Yeah. I mean, so I've had a couple of different therapists from the point from 32 years old. I mean, really, I started therapy at 25. So from 25 to this past January, I've been in therapy with, I'd say, like 4 or 5 different therapists. So always very long term. And sometimes there'd be a break in between. And that break in between would usually come when I felt like I need I need something different. I need like body work. I need something more spiritual. I need a different modality
Mhm,
that's not talking.
mhm,
And so I have, bumped in and out, but the therapy, it was always like 7 years or 9 years, or this last therapist I was with for 11 years. So I
mm,
started with her at the end of 2013, and we just
mm,
ended at the end of 2024.
mhm,
And yeah, I mean, the healing is lifelong, right? This is life work.
mhm, mhm,
But I came to a point with this therapist where the last year and a half, I've gone through a really radical shift
mhm,
in my life, which came with losing my second parent.
mhm,
My dad passed in March of 2024, and I was his only daughter. I have a brother, half brother, that was my mother's son from her first marriage. And I mean, it just threw me off my feet.
mhm.
Everything that was on my plate, everything I had to take care of, and then also facing that I'm the next in line
Mhm,
was I had not thought about this
mhm.
for a lot of different reasons that had to do with my dad's neuroses and him talking about death all the time. It was just not something I ever let myself really think about. And now it was staring me in the face.
Yeah.
So I actually went on sabbatical last summer,
Mhm.
and I was feeling so, I'm going to say, untethered.
And when you went on sabbatical, did you give it a particular time limit, or did you start it not knowing when you'd come back?
I didn't know when I'd come back.
Mhm,
When I started it, it was, I just felt, this is such a weird thing to say, but this is how I felt. I felt
mm,
the work I was doing, I felt like I was being emotionally raped,
mhm, mhm.
which I've never felt like that before, but
Yeah.
it was my work with this population is so personal.
Yeah.
And I think that something about the way I shifted things to not be a led cohort, but to be self-led. People were self-leading themselves through the program, and I was meeting with them every couple weeks in office hours. There was something about it at that particular time that I could not manage.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have the connection with the people that I needed.
Mm,
It was
mhm.
very strange. So, anyway, I stopped everything. I stopped my support group. I stopped all my programs. I'm pretty sure I sent out an email, and I did not know what would happen because I had never been in that space before.
Yeah.
And it was like I hit a wall. And I also felt very untethered and a lot of fear. I felt
Mhm,
very unsafe,
mhm,
whether I was in the city or I was in upstate New York. I mean, there's a lot of wildlife. I felt just like danger looming everywhere around me. And
mhm,
I was like undone. I was really undone.
mm,
And so I've spent the last year working with a shaman. I was working with her at the same time I was working with my therapist.
mhm,
And since I've stopped working with my therapist, I've continued to work with her, just
mm.
doing work on a little bit of a different level, which is on the more of a spiritual level.
Wow. What does that work feel like for you?
I mean, it feels different.
Mhm,
Um, I've I can think and feel through a lot of things, but this isn't that. This is kind of trusting more in the universe, trusting more in my guides, and connecting to my intuitive powers more, which I have very intensely, but I think because I've lived so much in survival, I haven't really exercised them as much.
Do you think that you knowing it was absolutely time to take a sabbatical, like, would you connect that to your intuitive powers?
Yeah. I mean, yes, I think that, I listen to my body.
Yeah. Well, again, that makes me think of when your hand went up.
Yes.
Like, there's a way that, your body is, like, really speaking. Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm. What's it like to be I don't know, it sounds kind of delicious, honestly. Like, what is it like to be a client or participant, whatever you wanna call yourself, in a modality that's different than the one that you do as a practitioner?
I mean, it's interesting. It's like, I guess it sort of goes back to that beginner mindset
Mhm.
where it's new. I'm hearing things through a different lens,
Mhm.
and it's like I'm not quote unquote skilled in it.
Mhm.
So I really feel like a novice, and at the same time, I know I've had many lives, and so I'm not a beginner and I'm not a novice, but I think it's again, it goes back to this having lived so many years in survival mode. I mean, most of my life, I'm gonna say in survival mode,
Yeah.
and moving out of that into really like a really grounded, present way of being, but still feeling like there's more. I need more skills around it. Like I need more tools around it, whether that
Mhm.
be meditation or sound bowls or, reading the oracle cards or whatever. Like there's all these different things that are there, but I don't quite know how to use them yet. And I need to listen to my intuition to kind of let that all grow. It's a little bit, leaves you feeling a little, I don't know, just shaky in a way, but also I'm very grounded in that this is what I need to be doing right now.
Mhm. Makes sense. I recently got myself I resisted for years, I resisted getting into individual work myself again, and I finally did it, and and then, of course, I worked with 2 people at once every single week, so let's do all or nothing. But I remember I was saying to a friend, like, "Okay, I'm gonna do it, like, I'm finally going to, surrender to somebody guiding me." And and my friend said to me, "Okay, you're actually gonna stay in self-sovereignty, like, as you go into that process. It's not that you're just handing yourself over to this person, you're gonna be in sovereignty." And I was like, "Oh, of course, that's so helpful to, like, hold on to the both and."
Yes. So important.
Mhm. So how is that feeling now? You were saying you were feeling so untethered. Are you still feeling that, or is that part different?
That has very recently shifted.
Mm.
And I feel ease and I feel my energy flow back. And it was even hard for me to show up on social media and create
Mhm.
content while I was going through this.
Mhm.
And so I lost a lot of identities in a very short period of time,
Mm.
with losing, having no parents and having to take on all of the affairs of death and then going on sabbatical. Right before I went on sabbatical, like 6 months before that, I had let go half my therapy practice
Mm. Mhm.
because I was gearing up in the
Mhm.
coaching.
Mhm.
And then I hit a wall. and I
Yeah.
couldn't do any of the coaching. And I was so appreciative that I kept half my therapy practice
Mm-hmm.
and that I had those people there and that I could work in a way that wasn't, feeling like I was being emotionally raped. I mean, it was such a bizarre experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really didn't know. I mean, for this year, it was kind of like, I don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up.
Yeah. I've been there. Yes. Like, what in the world is this new chapter going to look like? And at least for me, like, I need another chapter.
Mhm.
Need to stay being the breadwinner. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, so it's uncomfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
With these pivots.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know if it would come back.
Mm-hmm.
And I had so much to say. I'm like, how did I have so much to say? I always had something to say. I'd wake up in the morning with things to say. I have nothing to say. What
Yeah.
is happening? Who was I or who am I now? But it's coming back.
Mm.
And I'm feeling the energy flow again, and I'm really enjoying that, and so I feel like I'm starting to reclaim some of that, and I'm not sure exactly which direction it's gonna go yet. I started a
Mm.
podcast a couple months ago, so I've been doing that.
How has that been?
Oh god, it's so fun.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's really
Yeah.
fun, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really, really enjoying the long format and not having to speak in 1 minute or 3 minutes.
Yeah. Which you've gotten, I mean, I think actually maybe you always were really good at, but like you're so good at the short form, connecting really fast, and you have built a really big following. So, yeah, I wonder like with social media, how do you manage that energy in a way that it feels okay to you?
In terms
In
of
terms of being an influencer, basically, like being on there, having so many eyeballs, engaging one way with people, and people can be wonderful or they can be such assholes.
Mhm.
Yeah. What's that been like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was challenging with going through this period and
Mhm.
kind of showing up as somebody who has, I don't know, who's learned things and who, knows things, but in a very open, nuanced, and curious way to feeling like my feet are not on the earth and I am floating and
Mhm.
I don't, I don't know what to say. I mean, what really helped me was continuing to work with some coaching clients one-on-one
Mhm.
because that would give me content and
Mhm.
things to share that I knew other people would really appreciate. But
And that's, like, really grounded in,
yeah,
like, an
yeah,
actual person. Yeah,
yeah, that
makes
was
sense.
helpful. That was really helpful. But it was like this, I actually started just for the hell of it, another TikTok channel
Ah.
that was about death.
Mm.
I only posted like 9 videos, but I needed a place. I'm a verbal processor, and I needed a place to talk about what I was feeling because I thought I was losing my mind.
Yeah.
And like, does anybody else relate to this? And it was amazing. And that's one thing I have to say I love about TikTok. I just picked the tags, the hashtags, like death talk or death TikTok or losing your second parent or adult orphan, these kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I got tons of people that would comment and share. And so, I mean, I felt like I was up against a wall in the coaching where I show up as very authentic and
Mhm.
I am a very authentic person. Like, I'm not good at pretending,
Yeah.
but how much do you share that you're struggling
Mhm.
when you're a coach that's helping that other people are like coming to you and paying you to help them.
Yeah.
So that was really a struggle for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have anxiety about, like, losing followers if you didn't post?
I wouldn't say so much losing followers, but I had anxiety that like somebody else is going to come and like do me or something. They're going to take over and
Mhm.
I'm going to lose this momentum. I mean, on TikTok, I have such a lovely community and people really write a lot and ask me tons of questions. And I missed that. I missed helping people, even people that didn't do my program. I mean, really completely changed their lives just through the content I was posting.
Yeah.
So that fed me a lot. And so I didn't have that coming, and it wasn't so much like it was a little bit like, should I just should I just delete my account? Like it was such a crazy time. I'm so glad that I've I've re-entered that world a little bit and slowly, I mean, and reposting a lot of old content that still really speaks to a lot of people, which I found very helpful.
So you went on the sabbatical
Last summer.
and then how long did it last?
I mean, I have not run a program since then. I closed down my programs then. So, and registration is open right now for a new cohort. And I am excited to, have the energy to do it and to get out there and do it again. So we'll see what happens with that and when that happens. And I still have a couple of coaching clients, and I have more people who are starting to say, hey, how do I work with you one-on-one? And I'm happy to do one-on-one too. So the energy is coming back, and but it was really scary not knowing if it would.
Yeah. Okay. Samantha, where are you at right now in terms of processing your second parent's death?
I think I've accepted that this grieving process, and I had a complicated relationship with my dad, which was, very close and loving and also very difficult. He was very misogynistic. So I just think it's like a lifelong process. And maybe it was more intense over the past year and a half. And it's still there. And I have moments where I well up with sadness, and I'll just really let myself feel that and let myself cry and make space. I mean, I really have a lot of space in my life right now. My kids are all grown. They're all out living their lives. I got a place up in nature in upstate New York. So I've got a lot of, just trees around and a lot of space and quiet and time to feel. So I really believe that processing is feeling. And, I can talk about it, and talk about it and talk about it. But if I don't feel it, I'm not going to move through it. So it's much less than it was, but it's still, I mean, it's very final, and it really, it's like, wow, this is life, and I don't know how much longer I'll be here, and what do I want to do in this time? And, and then the grieving is all wrapped into that. So it's really different. It's really, really different than how I was feeling and living before.
And it sounds like you allow that bottom part of the triangle, like you allow those really core feelings to happen when they happen.
Yeah. And I have a lot of space, and I'm not very busy. I don't have a lot of social plans. I'm happy just spending the whole week by myself. And in that, there is a lot of space to just feel whatever I need to feel whenever I do. So.
Do you think do you notice for some folks that like busyness is a way to stay out of that gut space?
It's the top corner. It's another top corner, that busyness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this. Is there anything else you want to share that I didn't ask about?
Yeah. I mean, we didn't go a lot into the into IFS, which is what I use in helping people, and that parts work, which interestingly, I have not yet worked with an IFS therapist. So I haven't been a client in IFS therapy, but just through the trainings, I've felt the impact of even the small exercises and finding parts of myself that I didn't know were parts and I thought they were just me.
Yeah. In those, like, even in those role plays or in the work you do with other folks, like, well, no, in those role plays, let's say, I've had this experience where I go in my training. No, it's not a role play. They don't do role plays in IFS. It's like you just try to pick something that's not too activating.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in with something that I think is, just not too activating, just like maybe a small conflict with one of my kids or something. And then I'm like, holy shit, like I'm all the way in with like an exile, crying and being really, yeah, present with a part of myself I didn't expect. Like, yeah, you've had that happen too.
Yeah. I mean, it's so intense and it's so powerful.
Mhm.
And it's such a quick, I don't know, it's like the path in is like short. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't take a lot to get there. And I love that. And that's part of how I help people more quickly, right? It's taken me from
Mhm.
2002, it's 2025 to get here. So it's been a lot of years, but I've been able to do this with people, especially around something so niche and so specific,
Yeah.
so quickly, where
Mhm.
they are able to see their parts and they're able to talk to their parts and they're able to see that their parts are protecting their exiles and that they are an adult and how to, develop a relationship with their parts so that their parts can soften so that they can. I mean, it's really just, it's like these short pathways into healing.
Mhm.
So, but I have not been a client, and I'm interested. I am
Mm.
interested in thinking about, doing it just to do it, not because there's something specific I need to heal right now, but just to really feel what that feels like in the client seat.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. That's really cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much, Samantha. This is amazing.
You're so welcome. It's so great to see you. So great to be here. And I love that you're doing a pivot. I mean, that feels very inspirational. When I got the first email that you sent, I just felt, I mean, I was so happy. And, Heidi and I are like best friends since your program.
Mhm.
And so she and I were both like, oh my gosh, Annie's pivoting. This is so exciting, and it really is. It's just, it's good to be human and to not be this superstar,
Mhm.
and just to show that like we pivot, things change. It's okay. It's uncomfortable,
Mhm.
really uncomfortable, but it also is okay. So I really thank you for, just at least sharing that with everybody.
Oh my god, thank you so much. That's really, like, just picturing the 2 of you talking to you right now and then picturing the 2 of you loving each other up and talking about that really makes me just feel very warm. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Learn more about Samantha at unboxyoursexuality.com. I want to thank Ames Palms for editing this podcast. If you found this episode supportive, please do a couple of things. Share it with your favorite therapist or healer. That is absolutely the most important way we reach more people. And if you haven't already, please hit follow and give us 5 stars. That is so helpful to this podcast. And thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time.